There's a drive! Way back! It might be! It could be! It is! Holy cow! Welcome to another broadcast of Bricks Behind the Ivy.
Hey, Cub fans, welcome to another episode of Bricks Behind the Ivy. Thank you so much to our awesome sponsors, Wrigleyville Sports, the best sports store in Wrigleyville, and Yaggy Road Roasting Company, based in Valparaiso, Indiana, serving cups of coffee just as special as the moments you drink them in.
Hello, welcome to Bricks Behind the Ivy.
Hey, Brickheads, welcome to another episode of Bricks Behind the Ivy. I am your host, Jeff Candid Cubs Ragauskis, a lifelong Narsider with blue blood in my veins, an old style in hand, and a front row seat for every W flag moment and soul-crushing sweep. Welcome to Bricks Behind the Ivy. So happy you're here. I'm in an extremely good mood. I was at my first Cubs game of the year this past weekend and saw the Cubs really just put it to the Reds while the wind was blowing in 7-3 on Sunday. Got to sing the song, got to go to the Federal Landmark, got to get my soul recharged by one of my favorite places in the whole world. But, you know, I think as a Cubs fan and as a human being, we do really need to have a conversation at some point about the prices of concessions at Wrigley Field.
What?
And I know there's a lot of ballparks that fall in this, so I'm not going to just bash the Cubs, but man, is it really getting to a point where I feel like it's pricing out the average person or the family of four, because a hot dog at $11, that's bananas. I couldn't believe it. It had been a bit since I had been there, and generally I try to go for the ambiance and jump into those types of things so that I can feel like, you know, I'm part of the pageantry and doing the things I like to do at Wrigley Field. But man, that was weirdly disappointing for me. But let's get going on today's episode. Shout out to our friends at Yaggy Road Roasting Company, a boutique coffee roaster based in Valparaiso, Indiana. That's my alma mater. Go Beacons, as always. Yaggy is owned by 3 fellow Valpo alums, and they roast a coffee as special as the moments you drink them in. Also, before we get rolling, make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave a review on your favorite podcast app, as it helps more brickheads find the show. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Bleacher Bunch Network, which is home of some other great shows, including Cubs PS Plus with Mike Waller, Sun Ranto with Danny Rocket, Cup of Cubby Blue with Sarah Sanchez, the Bleacher Bunch Show, which features all of us, Baseball Rabbit Hole with Michael Cotton, and the Patreon exclusive daily Cubs recap show, Cubs Pod. So if you want more of that Cubs content, including shirts, sent Danny Rocket's amazing Cub parody songs, make sure you look up the Bleacher Bunch on Patreon and subscribe today. The link is in the description. So let's get to it. There's been a lot of discussion going into, for me, when I started this season, I really wanted to see the Cubs survive May. It's been really tough the last 2 Mays for the Chicago Cubs. 11-16 in 2024, 10-18 in 2023. So, you know, for those who are doing the quick math at home, that's 21-34 in the last 2 Mays, which has really just derailed their season. And there's been a lot of parity in those 2 years. We had the Cody Bellinger injury in both years. Ironically, both times when they were playing the Astros, one at Wrigley and one in Houston. And there was the pitching injuries, including a Justin Steele injury to start the year in April in 2024. Obviously, a Justin Steele injury this year as well, in which we're really missing him as the front end of this rotation. But the Cubs this year in May went 18-9. That's huge. It's such a huge improvement. It's their first winning May since 2021, which is really crazy to think about. And I know that we have been not in a rebuild, whatever that means. But the Cubs having a great May makes me feel so much more confident, especially after the April in which they had the hardest schedule in baseball for the entire season. Not just the hardest April, it was the hardest single month of any team, opponent-wise, of any team in baseball. They played a lot of contenders. The Cubs are done with the NL West pretty much. They have the Rockies left in some capacity, but they're done with the Dodgers. They're done with the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're done with the Padres, which are teams that are going to be competing for playoff spots. So towards the end of the year, not having to go and play meaningful games versus those teams who are quite good is going to be a nice advantage for the Cubs as they go for a stretch run. Another huge homestand this week, 5 in 1 week, really nice. And nice to see the Cubs really have what I would say a fun and exciting closer that shuts down games with Mr. El Humo, which is the smoke in Spanish, Palencia. So I'm going to start calling him El Humo because he throws smokes. He hits that 101 quite regularly at the end of the game. It's super fun to watch. So we did not do an episode for Memorial Day. I wanted to spend some extra time with my family, watch some Cub games, enjoy the extra time off. I hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. I personally spent most of it at the movies. I'm a big movie guy. Went and saw Tom Cruise do things that are absolutely ridiculous on a camera for a few hours, and then I also took my kids to see Lilo and Stitch, which was, both of those movies were a lot of fun. I like going to the movies. No free ads. But let's get to it. Our Wrigleyville Sports hitter and pitcher of the week, and we're going to include the Memorial Day week as well. So it's the hitter and pitcher of the weeks this week, and the hitter of the week is no other than Seiya Suzuki. He was the reigning NL Player of the Week last week. 3 home runs, 13 RBIs. Really what was nice to see with Seiya was the strikeout rate dropped to about 14.8%. And ironically, the walk rate went up to about 14.8%. So, yeah, there's some times where Seiya Suzuki can look very perplexed. He can be frustrating to watch because there's this indecisiveness that can appear from time to time, but at the end of the day, he is now in the top 10 in baseball in RBIs with PCA, challenging for that top spot, which Rafael Devers is still holding. And him and PCA are having this fun internal competition that I'm now tracking of who can lead the league, not just the team in RBIs, but the league. And that's a good problem to have 2 guys that have 50-plus RBIs as we are only heading into June. And then pitcher of the week, no one other than Jameson Jamo Tyone. Man, he has been so good lately. 1.83 ERA in the last 2 weeks, 3 wins, all 3 quality starts, only 4 walks, 11 Ks, and 19.2 innings pitched. I feel like Jameson Tyone, given the contract and the number of home runs he does give up, he is a fly ball pitcher. Gets a lot of flack on Cubs Twitter, Cubs media, Cubs social medias, because the home runs are not fun to watch if he walks someone or he gives up a chain of hits, and he also has this propensity to give up a lot of fly balls or home runs. Then games can get really ugly for JMO very, very quick. But he's a solid pitcher. He's been a solid pitcher most of his major league career. He's been a very steady Eddie, and he's a strike thrower. He doesn't walk guys. Currently, right now, he is at a 4.7 walk rate. So 4.7% of the batters he faced ends in a walk, which would be the best single year of his walk rate since his age 24 season in 2016. So he's not walking guys, which if you're going to give up home runs, you can't walk guys. You can't have guys on base. Like, give up a solo home run, don't give up the 3-run homer. That's going to really help you be successful. And the other thing I really want to talk about with Jameson Tyone, which I saw yesterday at the ballpark, him use the changeup. He used the changeup 18.6% of the time. Just a huge increase over what we started the season at. He was throwing the changeup at 7.9% clip in April, and in May, that went up to 12.5%. And he is starting to get a lot of swing and miss on this thing. So you can see, by month this year, if you're watching on YouTube, which I suggest you do, the change in his pitch mix by month. And that green line in the middle is the changeup. And it has steadily been going up. And obviously, we only have 1 start in June. So maybe it was something with the Reds. The wind was blowing in on Sunday. So maybe he was just feeling more confident to experiment, because if it was going to get hit hard, it was going to be extremely difficult for it to leave the yard. But he's getting a lot of whiff on it too. He's got a 30+% whiff rate on this pitch, 34.8%, which traditionally his swing and miss pitch has been his curveball, and that hasn't necessarily been the case this year. It's a put away pitch for him, but he's only at 16% whiff rate on the curveball. But mixing in this changeup, having the curveball and the sweeper, and now he's starting to pick up the use of his cutter on top of the four-seam fastball, it seems like it's keeping hitters off balance enough that he's actually entered the 80th percentile in exit velocity, so hard contact allowed. So he's not giving up an intense amount of hard contact, which is awesome. That is, for a guy who gives up home runs, which home runs are hard contact. He is not giving up hard contact in between the home runs. He still is prone to give up. So that, to me, is such a huge improvement, and it has to be this spike change that he's talking about. So this is something, if you're a nerd like me and you like to follow the stats and look at, I would hop on to websites like Baseball Savant and all these other places.
Nerd alert!
And take a look at the graphs that they have and track with me as we talk about on Bricks Behind the Ivy his changeup usage, because this is, to me, becoming a story of this pitch increasing the repertoire of Jameson Taillon, which is keeping guys off balance, which has really made him a solid middle-of-the-rotation arm, which is awesome. But he is this week's Wrigleyville Sports Pitcher of the Week. So before we get going, I do want to announce that we are heading into June. The Chicago Cubs are still an extremely good baseball team. They're in first place. They have the second best record in baseball. They are tied for the best record in the NL with the Mets currently. And it's just been so much fun. It's been fun to watch this team. And we're going to talk about the three things that I think are the most fun about the 2025 Chicago Cubs in a second. But I also want to talk about, we're going to, as people talk in baseball, there's the June swoon, which teams, as you know, we get towards the middle of the season, the halfway point, some teams start to tire. We have an idea of what some teams really are. And, you know, there's a real shift as we head towards the Midsummer Classic, the All-Star game. And to avoid the June swoon, the Cubs are going to have to continue to play good ball. They're likely going to need to add a starting pitcher. Not likely. They need to add pitching at the at the trade deadline if they're going to continue to compete. And this group is showing that they're special enough that they need to do that. But I figured since there's summer, it's time for people to be out of school. Baseball is going to take center stage right after Father's Day as one of the only professional sports left playing, as the Stanley Cup and the NBA Finals will be wrapping up. So all eyes on baseball. So if all eyes are on baseball, let's get all eyes on the Bleacher Bunch Network and Bricks Behind the Ivy. So we are going to do a giveaway to celebrate the classic June swoon, so we can have a June boom over here at Bricks Behind the Ivy. And we're partnering with our friends over at Wrigleyville Sports, and they're going to help us give away some pretty cool prizes as well. So here's how you enter for your shot at some awesome Cubs prizes, including a pair of Cub tickets and a custom Cubs jersey from Wrigleyville Sports. So here's what you do. Option 1. If you listen to us in Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star written review, which I'm going to have pictures in the Instagram post on how to do that if you don't know how to do it. And make sure you include in the review #Brickhead and your email address so I can contact you if you win. Then option 2, if you're a Spotify listener, or if you just want to hop over to Spotify and get a second entry, which I think is a great idea because the prizes are cool, leave a 5-star review. Click the 5-star in the review section and take a screenshot that you did it and tag at BBTI_pod on Instagram in your Instagram story. Option 3 for entries. All these are different ways to enter. Subscribe to the Bleacher Bunch Network on YouTube and then comment #Brickhead or #Bleacher Bunch under any video. So only one comment under each video will count as an entry. But we have a ton of videos on the website, so you can enter on every video. So you can get a ton of entries this way. And the more you comment, the more chances you have to win. But you have to be subscribed to the channel to actually be entered, and you have to have these comments. And I'll be able to see your username to contact you if you win. And then option 4, there's going to be an Instagram post that I'm doing with Wrigleyville Sports, and drop a #Brickhead in the comments of that, and then tag a friend. You have to do both of those things, #Brickhead and tag a friend. And that's another way to enter. So there's 4 ways to enter, lots of entries. The contest is going to end June 29th, and we're going to announce the winners on the episode that drops on June 30th, Monday, our usual release date of Bricks Behind the Ivy. So you could win Cub tickets, a custom Cubs jersey, or we are giving away 10 lucky winners are going to get Bricks Behind the Ivy t-shirts. So one winner gets a pair of Cub tickets, one winner gets a custom Cubs jersey for this season, and then 10 lucky folks are going to get Bricks Behind the Ivy t-shirts. So make sure you are hopping on here, subscribing to the YouTube channel, leaving comments with the #Brickhead or #Bleacher Bunch, reviewing us, because in June, it's going to pay off. Just like the Cubs being good in June is going to pay off as we're going to accelerate towards the playoff spot. So thank you so much for listening. If you've been listening this whole time, watching on YouTube, if you're a new listener, guess what? You've started at the best time because I'm going to give you free stuff if you help us out. So thank you so much. And yes, let's move on. So my buddy, Pat Erickson, the great Pat Erickson, #1 Harry Carey impersonator on the planet, no bias. He has won contests, and he has won the contest of my heart in that regard as well. But he was on vacation with his family this week, and he sent a nice message in to be a part of this episode while he was in Hilton Head. So let's check that out now.
Well, what's up, Bricks Behind the Ivy Nation? Yeah, Jeff, I'm coming at you live from down here in Hilton Head, South Carolina, but believe me, I've been watching my Cubbies. Boy, they've been on a tear lately. Pitching's been okay, but PCA is just unbelievable, and they're actually even talking about PCA down here in the South. So hope everything's going good up there. I'm going to be coming out to the ball yard here pretty darn soon. But as Harry would once say, so long, everybody. I'm going to go back for another pool drink. Love you guys.
Thank you so much, Pat. Always great to have you on the episodes. Looking forward to recording together here in the near future. So glad you got some family vacation in, as family's important, guys. Love family, love my Cubs family, love my actual family. Just family's so important, especially as times are challenging financially and politically and all these other things we don't need to get into. But let's do the Jackie Moon rule of everybody love everybody. ELE. That's a Bricks Behind the Ivy rule now going forward. ELE. Everybody love everybody. Unless you're a Cardinals fan. All right, moving on. The Cubs are fun. Yes, this 2025 Chicago Cubs are so much fun. And fun is a big thing for me, especially in baseball, because you need to be able to sell that your team is interesting to watch, because this game is built on failure. Everybody listening to this is a hardcore baseball fan and probably watches the game when the team is good and probably watches the game when the team is bad, because this is our sport, this is our thing, this is our special interest. So it's easy for us to buy in. However, if you also have been watching this team for as long as many of you likely have, and if you haven't been watching long, welcome aboard. Get on the train. It's hot. The train's moving fast, and it's being conducted by PCA. But if you haven't been watching this team, then you need to know that the last few years have been not fun. I would say that the highlight of those not fun years were the sort of competing years of 2023 and 2024, the frustration of not signing certain players and then being very, very close to being a playoff team, winning 83 games twice, and really just falling apart in May and then falling apart down the stretch after these huge booms in July and August to get back in and make it pertinent and interesting. The Cubs fell off the table and just did not get back to the playoffs, which... yeah, then a lot of finger pointing has happened. It's made social media Cub fans not fun. It's made a lot of things not fun. But we're back. We're back to fun. And I've got 3 big reasons on why I think the 2025 Cubs are fun. Number 3, the offense. I remember this commercial when I was a kid back after the Sammy Sosa home run chase with Mark McGwire going after Roger Maris in 1998. 1999, Major League Baseball made this tongue-in-cheek ad with Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine, and the end of the ad has them working out and trying to hit more home runs, which it would have been easier if they just gave them steroids like the other players. Anywho, in the commercial, the whole idea is that chicks dig the long ball. Well, the Cubs' offense is more than just home runs. Home runs are always fun. Everybody likes to see home runs. And this offseason, I also mentioned the big thing the Cubs needed to do to be successful in 2025, and this offense was to add slugging. And I went into this season thinking that they didn't do enough, that they added Kyle Tucker, who was a very, very, very good baseball player. I have no issues with the ad. But then subtracting Cody Bellinger, I always felt that the Cubs needed Cody Bellinger and it was just slightly raising the floor with a player like Kyle Tucker, who was more consistent, a way better approach, but they still needed another bat to supplement Seiya Suzuki. And the Cubs have gotten that. They have, this whole team is hitting so well from top to bottom. They lead baseball in runs produced from the 6, 7, 8, 9 spot in the order, as the Cubs have catchers who rake in Carson Kelly and Miguel Amaya. And as they've moved Dansby Swanson around in the lineup to get him hot and not get him hot, he has hit very well at the bottom of the lineup. The resurgence of the second time through with Matt Shaw, which we'll get to in a second. And what makes this offense special? Well, the Cubs need to improve some things that they weren't doing the last 2 years, and they have. They are walking at a 9.6% rate, which is better than 8.9, 9.2 of 2024 and 2023, respectively. And they're also striking out way less, about 2% on average up to this point in the season than the last two prior seasons. So they're at 20% this year, and the prior 2 years they were around 22% strikeout rate, which puts them at fourth in walk rate and fifth in strikeout rate and third in slugging rate in baseball this season as an offense. And they're only slugging behind their slugging rate is only behind the Dodgers and the Yankees, which we would expect those two teams, based on the construction of their roster for the Dodgers and the existence of Aaron Judge on the Yankees roster, for them to be top slugging teams. I don't think anyone really expected that this team would slug as well as they did and be slugging up there with these juggernauts of like financial authority and offensive powerhouses. So it's really nice to see this Cubs team up there, but they're not strictly a slugging team. They take their walks, and the other thing they do is they run so hard. I was talking with Brendan Miller over from CHGO, and he had mentioned something. He wanted to know how much the hustle the Cubs have broken up so many double plays this year, which is true. If you've watched this team, you've seen guys hustle in the second and the infielders not get PCA at second base when trying to turn a double play, so then they get no one. Guys beating out Dansby Swanson on Saturday this weekend versus the Reds. Ellie De La Cruz has an extremely strong arm. It was 1-0 Cubs with the bases loaded with 2 outs. Dansby hits a ball in the infield that is an out, I would say 99% of the time, but he hustled out of the box. Ellie didn't take him seriously, tried to use the strength of his arm, did not throw out Dansby. And the Cubs score a second run in a day that the wind was blowing in. It might have been 50 runs. 1-run game, yeah, maybe something could happen, but a 2-run game with the wind blowing in, that was a bigger task. Really, really just changed the mental output or the mental approach for the Reds hitters going to that ninth inning because of the Cubs hustling out of the box. Like that's not speed you measure. That's just heart and hustle. And when you watch a team playing as hard as the Chicago Cubs are in 2025, it's just hard not to just respect what they're doing. And they're doing it all the time. They're second in total runs and just behind the Dodgers in all of baseball. So they're scoring more runs than 28 other teams, which is crazy. I in my wildest dreams of how this offense would look, I did not have them in the top. I thought they would be slightly above average, and then their pitching would be decent. And here we are. The pitching with the bullpen and stuff has actually been a struggle, and their offense has been incredible. They have the best run differential currently in the sport, and a lot of folks like to use that to kind of indicate quality of a team. And I'll argue, especially, as in certain situations, some teams can really explode and inflate that run differential and then struggle to score. Other times, maybe they don't give up a ton of runs, but it's not the best indicator of quality, but it is an indicator, and it's part of the broader story of this great Chicago Cubs offense. Back to the speed, they've stolen 76 bases this year, which is third in baseball, just behind the Tampa Bay Rays, who just have a ton of speed, and the Milwaukee Brewers, who use the speed that they have, as we've talked about in past episodes. They have a ton of athleticism across that roster, and they use it super well. So the Cubs in 2016, I think a lot of people would probably, without looking at numbers, say that was a great offense. And we had MVP version of Chris Bryant. We had Anthony Rizzo, really just being a leader on that team. We had the emergence of Wilson Contreras as an extra catcher, Addison Russell, who was hitting really well at shortstop, Ben Zobrist, even when we weren't getting a ton of offense from Jason Hayward, he was still a good player, Dexter Fowler, the whole team, Kyle Schwarber towards the back end, and obviously in the World Series. But that team, what they did really well was walk, which is kind of similar, but they walked at 10.4% clip, which is ridiculous. It's an insanely high team, which led baseball at the time. But they didn't slug as well as this team, which is at least in a full season. Obviously, there's a lot of baseball left, but they were only 13th in home runs, which actually surprised me when I looked at numbers because I just felt like they really hit the ball well, but it really, for them, was about traffic. They had so much traffic. And then on top of that, the 2016 Cubs, if you're not aware, by defensive metrics, is the best defensive team in the history of the sport. They have defensive metrics that are just insanely off the charts, that outpaced every team by like 30 or 40 defensive runs saved averages. It's bananas how good that team was defensively, which, thinking back, yeah, you've got like Javi Baez and Addison Russell were both great glove guys. Chris Bryant was an amazing third baseman, but he was really steady. Anthony Rizzo, Platinum Glove Award winner. Jason Hayward in the prime was amazing as defense. The Cubs had great pitch framing, like just up and down. Like you can see how great they were defensively. But the Chicago Cubs offense is my number 3 reason on why the 2025 Cubs are fun. Number 2, the kids can play. Yes, the Cubs, when they were in their run, when they were in their better run of 2015, 2016, used to get these cookies, as I would refer to them, of these minor league players that would get called up that everyone would get excited about. And the major league team was also winning. So it's like, here we're winning, and also here's this nice little present of this really cool player that's going to be really good, and we're gonna take a look at him. We're gonna add him to this roster. Well, the 2025 Cubs have kind of been like that as well, which is why this team has like this 2015 Cub aura to it. Because as you know, they're elevating. They've got some veterans. Like we've gotten to see guys like Cade Horton step up and make a lot of starts. We've seen Moises Ballesteros have a nice cup of coffee, and he'll be back if there's some sort of issue at some point, and probably get more at bats on this team before the end of the year. They've brought up a bunch of different bullpen arms like Daniel Palencia, El Humo, the Smoke, as he's really just taken to that closer role while we figure out what's going on with the hip impingement and the quad injury for Porter Hodge, who I think was the named closer in every Cub fan's mind going into this offseason, before we did the Ryan Presley experiment, which has been going better lately, but that's a completely different topic. Matt Shaw was our top prospect in the system, number 18 in all of baseball to start the season. And yeah, his first cup of coffee wasn't fun. He got to go through the buzzsaw of the Japanese series. He had a little bit of an injury that got him off to a late start, but they really needed him at third base, which is why I think maybe they rushed him a little bit. Maybe he needed a little seasoning or a few more major league at-bats before being plunged in the deep end of facing a pretty solid Arizona Diamondbacks rotation, the Dodgers twice. It's just cruel and unusual punishment. Like, those are some great pitchers, and you got the Padres in there as well, where you got guys like Dylan Cease and Yu Darvish, who just really present a lot of interesting looks. So he was able to go down to the minors and really just fix and work on reducing his leg kick, which there was a lot of discussion on whether or not it truly had changed. He has not eliminated the leg kick. He has just adopted his 2-strike leg kick, which is much more subtle, to increase his timing window in the majors, which makes sense because Major League, AAA, the major leagues, the distance and the talent, and the difficulty for hitters to adjust to major league pitching versus minor league pitching is the largest gap, as folks have said, they've ever seen, which makes so much sense given if there's a good arm in the minors, they're way more aggressive now to just move them up instead of having them, cook and waste bullets in the minor leagues. Like, once you know a pitcher's good there, they're probably on the major league roster. The guys that are at AAA now are 4A players or depth for better players, and just in case they get hurt. So it's just different. It's very different. But the second time around of Matt Shaw since May 19th, completely different guy. 4 RBIs, 6 stolen bases, slashing 326, 383 at base, and he looks so much better. He looks like a better player, and he had some sparkling defensive plays on Sunday, and I believe it was the 7th inning, where he made some really nice picks. And we have a really low bar this year on what good third base looks like, because the Cubs haven't had good third base production this year with the cast of Vidal Brujan and John Birdie and Gage Workman, who was going to stick to the Cubs when he went to the White Sox to just eventually get cut from the White Sox. But, baseball's hard, but we had heard Gage Workman was, we saw he really hit well in spring training. He had a ton of home runs, and the guy could pick it. And then he gets to the majors, and he all of a sudden can't field over there, and he's also not hitting. And I think we expected the strikeouts to really pile up for someone like Gage Workman, because that was his issue in the minors. But the expectation was, he'll be steady in different sets. He'll be steady at third base because he's a good defender, and that didn't exist. So that was extremely frustrating. But yeah, the Cubs still have some kids that we could see before the end of the year, or they're going to be packaged in a deal like James Girantos and Owen Casey. Double A has Jackson Wiggins, which, I don't expect to see him on a major league roster, but there are still young guys that if you want to go this summer to Iowa, or you want to go see the South Bend Cubs and see Jefferson Rojas, if you want to go to Knoxville, see the Smokies, you want to go see the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, there are guys all over the system that will impact this major league team at some point, or will be names that will be interesting for you to know as the Cubs look to supplement this team. So that's number 2. And number 1 is, for anyone listening who is a huge Cubs fan, it's super obvious, but if you are looking to get into Cubs this year, and you found this Cubs podcast to do that, first of all, welcome and thank you. And second of all, the number 1 reason the Cubs are fun is MV Pete. Holy cow, Pete Crow Armstrong. Now, I went into this season, and I really liked the skill set of Pete Crow Armstrong. And the discussion about him has always been his defensive ability was always going to be a really, really stable floor. Because what he can do on a baseball field, fielding-wise from center field, is worth wins above replacement, an insane defensive wins above replacement value. So he only needed to be an average major league hitter to be an extremely productive part of this team. But he's more than that now. He's hitting the ball. He's attacking first pitches. A few weeks ago on 670 The Score, they were talking about that. And first pitches he swung at, which had shown his aggression, he was hitting 500. And it was not an alarming small sample size, but it was a pretty sizable sample size into going into the season. So what do you do? What do you do with PCA? Do you throw ball 1 where he's still hitting strikes extremely well at this moment, or do you throw him that first pitch strike where he's getting on base or hitting the ball really well an alarming amount of time, 50% of the time? This guy is slugging. He's on his way to potentially, by the All-Star break, he could have 25 home runs and 25 stolen bases. But yes, if you haven't watched him play, which a lot of us do watch him play, he is lightning in a bottle. He is freakishly fast. Watching him run the bases is super fun. Watching him to play center field better than anyone in this game is super fun. Oh, and also he is just super fun when he's on the plate. He's the first guy to hug the guy on the walk-off hit. He's the first guy to congratulate Seiya Suzuki after a home run. He just seems like his sixth tool is amazing teammate. This is not an egotistical baseball player. He is straight up fire. MV Pete is being chanted at Wrigley Field, and he continues to play this way. It's not only going to continue to be chanted at Wrigley Field, but is going to end in this season with him raising an MVP trophy. He currently, if you look at Fangraph's version of wins above replacement, what folks refer to as FWAR, which calculates the total value of an individual player compared to the rest of the league. Nerd alert! He is currently the third most valuable player in all of baseball and the most valuable player in the National League, ahead of Shohei Ohtani and behind Aaron Judge and Cal the Big Dumper, by the way, excellent nickname, Raleigh, which is a guy that I wanted the Cubs to target, which just was never going to happen from Seattle this offseason because he's a great catcher and he's a great hitting catcher. But I don't think we expected that from Pete Crow Armstrong's season this year. And not only has he elevated his offense, which is fun, as I stated earlier, but he is bringing so much swagger, so much speed, and such a different it factor that makes this team so much more fun to watch. So, what do you guys think? What are your favorite things about the 2025 Cubs have been? What has made the 2025 Cubs fun for you? Make sure you are letting me know in the comments below this video or letting me know on a different social media channels what you think about the 2025 Cubs. So I think that's a great place to leave it here on Bricks Behind the Ivy this week. Make sure you are entering that contest as we talked about earlier. You're leaving us reviews, leaving comments, because at the end of this month, somebody's walking away with a pair of Cub tickets, someone's walking away with a custom jersey from Wrigleyville Sports, and 10 of you are going to get Bricks Behind the Ivy t-shirts, which I personally think is really cool. Free t-shirts. Like, who doesn't want free stuff? I like free stuff. You like free stuff. And you know what the inflation on free things is? Nothing. So free things, no matter the market, still are free when you get them. So thank you so much for listening to another episode of Bricks Behind the Ivy. We will be back next Monday breaking down everything that's going on with the Chicago Cubs. I'll see you next week, and as always, go Cubs!